Jaya 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 Gopi Janavara Jaya Gopi Janavara Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Ramanujar ki jai, Samved Bhaktavrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Thank you so much. Okay, Hare Krishna. We have a new setup here. It looks like I'm on someone's phone. I can't see any faces or chats. Can you guys hear okay?
We're real.
You can hear okay?
Yeah.
So because I'm using a phone, someone's phone instead of a computer. I'm not going to share my screen. I'm just going to from the book.
1343.
What's that?
10:13:43.
10:13:43. So just one verse today.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, entitled Brahma Stealing the Boys and Calves, verse 43, you said, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Translation, verse itself, I'll just read the Sanskrit. Evamuteshu vedeshu chiram dvatya sa'atmabhu satya kekatare neti gyatum neshte katanchana. Translation, thus Lord Brahma, thinking and thinking for a long time, tried to distinguish between those two sets of boys who are each separately existing. Which two sets of boys?
The ones that he stole, and then the ones that, well, because there was the Maya ones that he stole, and then the ones that were the boys that Krishna turned into. There's three sets.
He was not keeping it to it.
Because there's the Maya ones that he stole, and the ones that he actually stole that were sleeping, and then the ones that Krishna became them.
Were the Maya ones referenced here earlier? I never heard of those Maya ones.
Oh, it says in the purport.
In the purport?
Yeah.
Well, there's the ones that he stole, and there's the ones that Krishna had
Yes,
manifested
those
himself
are
into. So let's keep it simple.
Those are the ones he's thinking.
Who are each
The other ones are on Krishna's arms.
who are each separately existing. So we got two sets here. There's the ones that Brahma stole, which he was keeping in a cave, and then the ones that Krishna manifested and was going about all their daily stuff. So imagine if you tried to capture Champak or Leslie and you put them in 4E and you didn't want to let them out to the service, and the next day you showed up and she's making garlands in the tupper room. And you run up to 4E and she's looking in the room and she's there in 4E, and you come down and she's making garlands in the tupper room and you're like, what's going on here? He tried to understand who was real and who was not real, but he couldn't understand at all. He tried to understand who was real and who was not real, but he couldn't understand at all. Okay, purport. Brahma was puzzled. The original boys and calves are still sleeping as I have kept them, he thought. But another set is here playing with Krishna. How has this happened? Brahma could not grasp what was happening, which boys were real and which were not real. Brahma was unable to come to any definite conclusion. He pondered the matter for a long while. How can there be two sets of calves and boys at the same time? Have the boys and calves here been created by Krishna, or has Krishna created the ones lying asleep? Or are both merely creations of Krishna? Brahma thought about the subject in many different ways. After I go to the cave and see that the boys and calves are still there, does Krishna go to take them away and put them here so that I can come here and see them? And does Krishna then take them from here and put them there? So it's like, imagine like, okay, like somehow when I go up and I look at Leslie and she's still in her room in 4E, and then by the time that I come down, she somehow snuck back through the window, through the back of the temple room, ran in here and started making garlands before I can really find out. And then I see her making garlands and I'm like, wait a second. And I go up and then before I make it back up to 4E, she's running out the back of the temple room, jumping back in through the window and into her bedroom. And it's the same person, it's just running back and forth. And somehow Krishna is just shuffling the cowherd boys and the cows back and forth in this big, giant kind of befuddlement. So Brahma's wondering that.
Funny how he actually thinks Krishna is involved with it.
How he thinks what?
He thinks, did Krishna do this, or did Krishna do that, or did Krishna do... Somehow he suspects that Krishna's behind it.
Who else could be?
And, yeah.
Brahma could not figure out how there could be two sets of calves and cowherd boys exactly alike. Although thinking and thinking, he could not understand at all. I'm going to bring my computer out just because there's a lot of verses I want to reference that I want to look up. What's that? I'm okay. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Read the verse again. Thus, Lord Brahma, thinking and thinking for a long time, tried to distinguish between those two sets of boys who were each separately existing. He tried to understand who was real and who was not real, but he couldn't understand it all. Hare Krishna Domi. It's interesting that sometimes in spiritual life, we have to learn the same lessons over and over again. Right? Anybody had that experience? That very often we have to learn the same lessons over and over and over again. We find that who's the most classic example of that throughout the Bhagavatam? Indra. You find that Indra's kind of coming up again and again and again and again. You hear all of these various stories of Indra. There's the story of Indra. When was it Satyabhama who wanted the what tree? The was it Parijata? No, was it?
Starts with a P, definitely.
This is Parijata.
Of course, one's immersed in mantra.
What is the name of the flower that Satyabhama wanted from the heavenly planet?
The Parijata. So Satyabhama in Dwarka Lila, right? Because Satyabhama is a queen in Dwarka Lila, wanted a Parijata flower from the kingdom of Indra. And so Krishna went and he took it, he stole it, even though it already belonged to him. Everything belonged to Krishna. There was once a story, shortly after Indra Prabhu passed away, Ram Roy happened to be here in New York when that took place, and he was sharing his just reflections and appreciations and sorrows for the loss of Indra Prabhu. This was back, I believe, in 2010. And he was talking about Indra. Yeah. It was in Boston in the area, and I remember he was just, sharing his sentiments, and we had several evening sanghas with Ram Roy Prabhu. Ram Roy would do kirtan and tell stories. And he said one story about Indra Prabhu that at one point somebody was mentioning that a lot of the songs that either Indra Prabhu sings or the devotee sings came from Bollywood movies. The tunes, the Hare Krishna tunes, came from Bollywood movies, and it's like, oh, didn't you take those and just use those for Hare Krishna melodies? And he said that Indra Prabhu said yes, and said they were Krishna's tunes, and they stole them for Bollywood movies, and I'm just taking them back. Because everything belongs to Krishna. So Krishna was stealing this Parijata tree, but everything belongs to Krishna. But Indra didn't get that. Indra didn't understand that this actually belongs to Krishna. And so when something gets taken away from us, Krishna, why are you taking this from me? Why are you taking this person from me? Why are you taking this wealth from me? Why are you taking this job from me? Why are you taking this service from me? Everything belongs to Krishna in the first place. Where did I get the idea that this even belonged to me in the first place? Where did that conception come into my head? What's that?
The false ego.
Alan got it. It's the false ego. And what's the Sanskrit word for false ego? Ahamkar. What does ahamkar mean? Domi? What's the translation? What does the word literally mean? Break it up. Break it up for me.
I am the doer.
I am the doer. Krishna died was cheating because he knows everything. Aham, I am aham. Krishna says aham bija pratabij. What do you say? Aham bija? Aham. Krishna?
Yes,
Aham bija pratabija. What does he say? I'm the secret.
like what you're saying.
Aham bija pratabija.
Yeah.
Two bijas?
Huh?
Aham bija pratabija.
Yeah, aham bija.
Pratapita, pita. Father. Aham pita. I am the seed-giving Father. Aham means I, me, aham. Kar, like we get the word karma, or to do. I am the doer. I'm the one making it happen. I am the doer. That's a false ego. I am, and therefore, because I did this, this is mine. This belongs to me. This service belongs to me. This room belongs to me. This money belongs to me. This house belongs to me. These people belong to me. And therefore, when we have that sense of this belongs to me, we become very bewildered. Why is Krishna doing this? It's never belonged to me in the first place. And so Indra himself is having this whole bewilderment because Krishna is trying to steal this Parijata tree, right? And this is later in Dwarka Lila, right? The same Indra, flip back just a few pages earlier to the Govardhan Puja Lila. The whole Govardhan Puja Lila, and Indra was humbled, and he came down and he paid obeisances to the cows, and he said, please forgive me, and you are my worshipful Lord, and I'm so stupid, and oh my God, I'm so sorry. A few chapters later, why are you taking my Parijata flower? We forget so easily, and there's so many Indra again and again. It's like Indra, it's like really, come on. But it's so easy to see somebody else do it, but then we ourselves do it so many times. And how many times is it like, and we wonder, it's like, why does this keep happening? It's like, well, why do I keep needing to learn the same lesson over and over and over and over and over again? And Brahma himself, he tried to understand who was real and who was not. What's another instance where Brahma was bewildered? He didn't understand what was up and what was down. Where Brahma?
When he visited Krishna in Dwarka, and Krishna told him, the only Brahma. And
When he
showed him
visited
the other Brahmas.
Dwarka, yes, that's it. It's interesting because you would think then that Brahma would have figured it out, right? That's later on. So Brahma at one point visited Dwarka, and he went to see Krishna, and they were like, "Who's there? Who's here?" And he said, "What do you mean, who's here? Brahma." And then they said, "1 second." Open the door back again, like Wizard of Oz. Which Brahma? It's like, what? Which Brahma? You know what I mean? It's like, who's here? Dayal Gauranga, Executive Director of Bhakti Center. Which executive director? It's like the Brahma with 4 heads. It's like, oh, that Brahma. Okay, you just wait over there. There's a queue. Just because there's a Brahma, and then he came and he saw there's a Brahma with 100 heads, and a Brahma with 1,000 heads, a Brahma with 10 heads, a Brahma with 1,000,000 heads. He was like, oh, I get it. But it's like, wait, aren't you the same Brahma that just a few chapters ago tried to steal the calves and the cows, and you saw Krishna's unlimited nature, and you surrendered and realized you humbled yourself? So that's later on. But even before that, I'm talking before this pastime took place. What's the instance where? What was that? Mumbling behind the curtains?
When he was born.
When he was born.
Yeah, it was totally Lord.
When he was born, he came. So Brahma came out of the lotus flower of which Vishnu? Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. So Mahavishnu, there's 3 Purusha avatars. Mahavishnu, Karnadakashaya Vishnu, the cosmic ocean, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Kshiradakashaya Vishnu. So Mahavishnu is the original Vishnu from whose pores, when you see Sometimes you see the pictures of Vishnu in the pores, unlimited universes are coming out of his pores. That's Mahavishnu. And then in each of those universes, there's a Garbhodakashaya Vishnu that lays on the Garbhak ocean, and a lotus flower comes out of his navel. And from that lotus flower is born Brahma. Brahma is sometimes known as Aja, not born, because he has no mother, no material mother, no material father. He came directly from Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. But he was born from Krishna, the original source. And so, and then from that universe, Brahma creates the universe. And then in each and every atom of that universe, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu enters. So we have these three tiers of Vishnus. And so Brahma is born from that lotus. It's in which canto, Srimad Bhagavatam?
Or is it second?
Not the first canto. Domi, Leslie?
Second.
Don't ask me, please. I'm just drinking my tea. Second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So you have these, what are the first two? There are 10 subjects of Srimad Bhagavatam. 10 subjects of Srimad Bhagavatam that are listed by who in the Bhagavatam? Shukadev Goswami. And what are the first, what's the first one?
Creation.
Sarga. What's the second one?
Visarga.
Someone online there? Krishna Dayal Prabhu?
Visarga.
Pandit?
Visarga.
Visarga. Sarga and Visarga. Primary creation. No, Sarga is not Sarga. Like primary creation, secondary creation. Primary creation, secondary. Sarga and Visarga. Primary creation and secondary creation. What is this, a quantum physics class? Primary creation means ultimately just the creation of the raw elements of the universe. So that idea of the pores coming out of the universe is coming out of the pores of Mahavishnu. So Brahma doesn't create the elements. Brahma doesn't create the elements as they are. Krishna, Mahavishnu, he creates those elements and he creates the raw materials of the material world. And then Brahma's like the engineer. So we say Brahma creates this universe. Brahma creates this universe, but he's actually just the engineer. He takes the raw elements, earth, water, fire, air, all those things, and he manifests them all into the creations that we see. So Brahma, this is so before Brahma's now in charge of the secondary creation of the universe. And he's born, he just sees it's just chaos. There's no other living beings that are there. There's just all these raw materials. It's dark and he's bewildered. He doesn't know what's up and what's down. So he's in the secondary creation. His job is to fulfill that Visarga, that secondary creation. Populate the universe. Create what we see around us. That's why the gopis got so mad at Brahma for creating eyelids, for making us blink. Because whenever they blink, there's a fraction of a second they can't see Krishna. We're going to take darshan in a little bit. How many of us notice when we blink? We're so upset. Talked about this in our last class, last week. The idea of the cowherd men becoming aggravated. But when they saw their own sons and they saw their own cows who were actually Krishna, they ran to him with such gusto that their aggravation went to the wayside. And so it was in this very same chapter. What were the verses last week? Text 5, text 13, 11 or something. What's that? Had to look it up on your phone. See if we can find this verse. It was just there. It was beautiful verses that we read last time. Yes, text 32 of the same chapter. The cowherd men, having been unable to check the cows from going to their calves, felt simultaneously ashamed and angry. They crossed the rough road with great difficulty. But when they came down and saw their own sons, they were overwhelmed by great affection. So when we increase our affection for Krishna, our aggravation for everything else in the material world starts to subsist. So the gopis were upset with Brahma for creating eyelids. So Brahma had this secondary creation. So Brahma himself was bewildered. And what word came into Brahma's mind, he heard is one word, tapa, austerity. And so the same Brahma who heard that word from Krishna, tapa, and performed austerity and went internal to perform austerity and to receive the direct instruction. What's the first verse from Srimad Bhagavatam? Canto 1, chapter 1, verse 1. It's a long verse. You have to read the Sanskrit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasaya Tonvayan Itaratash Tishvatiga Swarat. I offer my obeisances to that supreme absolute truth. Second line. Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adi Kavaye. Tene, that person who Brahma, the supreme Brahma, Hrida, in the heart, Adi Kavaye, that the original poet. Krishna is the original poet who spoke to Brahma within the heart, gave instruction to Brahma within the heart. It's there in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Spoke to Brahma within the heart. That same Brahma. And then what's the scripture that we sing every morning during deity greetings that comes from Brahma's prayers and realizations when Krishna spoke to him in the heart? The Brahma Samhita. So every morning we sing the Brahma Samhita when we greet the deities. First quoted and prayed, and what is it? It's Brahma's technicolor detail realization of Krishna. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. All those beautiful prayers. That Brahma who spoke the Brahma Samhita, who had these beautiful realizations of Krishna, is now sitting here in Vrindavan bewildered about how, what verse are we on right now? 33? He tried to understand who was real and not real, but he couldn't understand it all. After I go to see the cave and see the boys and the calves are still there, Krishna, does he go and take them and put them here so that I can come and see them? And does Krishna then take them from here and put them there? Brahma could not figure out how there could be two sets of calves and cowherd boys exactly alike. Although thinking, he could not understand it all. Why could he not understand? How come he couldn't understand? Domi? There's something in the chat I can't see. Take a guess, Domi.
Because he's bewildered by
He's bewildered by false ego. And it's interesting that the word here used is thinking and thinking for a long time. Thinking and thinking for a long time. He tried to understand with his own mental faculties. So what are some beautiful verses from Bhagavad Gita that help us understand how to approach and understand Krishna? That's the one. Adi Prabhu mentioned 18th chapter, 55th verse, one of the most beautiful verses. And that's why Krishna explains this to us over and over and over again in the Bhagavad Gita. 18th chapter, verse 55. Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanyaschat vitapataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. 1855. One can understand me as I am, as a supreme personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, they can enter into the kingdom of God. So what's the kingdom of God according to Bhakti Yogis, Gaudiya Vaishnavas? Gauranga Vrindavan. Another Ayendra quote he gave us shortly after Ayendra passed away. I started listening to a lot of his classes, and one of his classic classes is titled "Are you serious or what?" I don't know if he gave that title or it just was pulled from a quote. And he was always speak about how we should be so eager to take what Prabhupada has given us. So eager to take what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. And we should not think that Goloka Vrindavan is unattainable. It's unattainable by our own means, but it's a great treasure that's been given to us. We are meant to make our way home back to Godhead. Meant to make our way go back to Godhead. And he was emphatically shouting in class, back home, back to Godhead. And back home doesn't mean just any dang place back home, back to Godhead. Back home, back to Braja. Meaning we're not going to Vaikuntha, we're not going to wherever it is, we're going straight back home, back to Goloka Vrindavan. And so that Goloka Vrindavan, Brahma was there, but he could not see, he couldn't understand. Was he really there? They say you can't buy a plane ticket to Vrindavan. Even Brahma was just sitting apparently right there in Vrindavan. He couldn't see, he couldn't understand. Because it's Bhakti Mama Vijaranti. It's devotion that gives us the eyes to see. Over and over and over and over and over again, we see it in the Bhagavad Gita. We see it in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna was bewildered by the universal form of the Bhagavad Gita. 11th chapter, verse 54. Bhaktya tvananyaya shakya. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Standing before you. Krishna was standing in front of Brahma. It was right there. Couldn't see. Couldn't see. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. There was a great mystery of understanding right before Brahma. But he couldn't understand it. Over and over and over again in the Bhagavad Gita, we find this verse. And also, one of my favorite verses, chapter 10, verse 10. Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam. Second half. Tadami buddhi yogam tvam, jainamam upayanti te. Tesham satata yuktanam. Tesham, to them, satata. Sat means always, eternally, engaged. Sat. Tesham satata yuktanam, engaged, yukta. We also like the word yoga from to mean engaged. I don't know if there's a connection with yukta and yoga, but the word engaged. Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, in bhajam, in worship of me with priti, with love. Those who are engaged in devotional service with love, Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, dadhami buddhi yogam tam. I give them that inherent wisdom, which they can come to. So again and again, and we have to be careful in our own spiritual life. When we're engaging with devotees, when we're serving the deities, when we're taking darshan of the deities, we miss it. We miss it all the time. We forget the immense treasure that we have, that Prabhupada has given us, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, to associate with devotees. We have the opportunity to perform devotional service, and we take it so cheaply sometimes. Prabhu, can you help me with the service? Service. Tired of service. You want to come to this program? I need a break from the programs. I just need a break. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we got to take care of ourselves, but at the same time, what is the tremendous treasure that we have? I need this service. I need this sangha. There was in Rath Yatra. So Radhanath Swami's not most recent, but the visit when he came in June. He came and he went to the Rath Yatra. It's probably his first time in the New York Rath Yatra in a very long time. And I asked him during that time, after the Rath Yatra, we're in the park, and I just said, how was the Rath Yatra for you, Maharaj? And he just paused. We were walking, and he just said, like very honestly, almost somewhat confused by the question. And it was like, I wasn't sure if he was going to answer the question. Sometimes you say something, they just don't say anything. And so I asked him, he just said, I don't ever think of it like that. I don't ever think of things in that term. It's like I came here for the service of Lord Jagannath, and that's all that matters. You know, Jagannath was pleased. So it wasn't the sense of like I enjoyed the Rath Yatra, or it was ecstatic, or it wasn't as good as previous Rath Yatras. Previous Rath Yatras were better. Or the Kirtan was better. Or I was at the Balaram Camp, but I heard that the real great Kirtan was in the Jagannath cart. I missed it. You know, I'm glad I wasn't stuck in that cart. You know what I mean? We think in that terms of like, I enjoyed the Rath Yatra. The weather was this, or this was that, or whatever it might be. It was like, I don't think of it in terms of like that. It's here for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. And so, but there's a great reward of what happens when we start to think like that. Is Krishna opens up to us the great revelation of understanding of what it is that we're actually doing. What our service really means, what association of devotees that we really have, the darshan of the deities. And so, but we can only access that through devotion. And so it's not just through our devotion, it needs to be expressed through service. And it's not just our service, but our service has to be done devotionally. And we access that through, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the formula, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tororivasa Vishnana, Amanina, Manidena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. How do I get that taste for service? Kirtaniya Sadahari is through my attitude of humility, through my tolerance of challenging situations, and the level of respect. It's not just a you ought to or you should, that this is the roadmap that's been given to me in order to not find myself in the situation that Brahma, Indra, and all the demigods. It's there also in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, Tene Brahma Hridade Adi Kaviya, that original poet who spoke to Brahma, Muyanti Yat Surya, who also bewilders all the demigods, Indra, etc. And so it's not a one-time thing. It's not I was humble today, I did it. I get my humble badge, like, you're in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, you get like, did my humble badge, I got my tolerance badge, I got my respect other devotees badge. Every day, every moment, we continuously come back to it. Humbling ourselves. Not seeking and desiring respect. And looking for opportunities to appreciate and respect of the devotees. And your reward for that is not necessarily going to come from anything external. You may or may not get recognition. You may or may not get extra brownie points. You may or may not even get the Maha Sweets from the morning. Krishna may not even make your life easier materially. But what you will get guaranteed over time is an increased realization of Krishna in the heart. So that we don't end up where Brahma ended up. We end up where the cowherd boys and the cowherd maidens and Yashoda and Nana, that's where we want to end up. Okay, Hare Krishna. I think I went on for too long. Do we have questions, realizations, comments, reflections?
Thank you. Great class, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say happy birthday, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. It was yesterday, right?
It was Sunday.
Sunday. Oh, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Thank you very much for your leadership, for your devotion, for guiding us. Thank you for caring for us. And be a great class. We're supposed to ask if the temple room has questions, and then we can go to the online audience.
Room awake? Question? Jump up.
Yeah, Lord Brahma, he spoke those amazing Brahma Samhita prayers, and we also understand that Lord Brahma is a pure devotee. So, we learn in Midoriya Company that in every single stage of bhakti, even up to the place of bhava, one can still fall down. When one gets to prema, there is no falling down. So how can we understand, okay, Lord Brahma, a pure devotee, was speaking to Brahma Samhita, how could he get bewildered by false ego? Was it just Krishna's yoga maya for the sake of pastimes? Why? How did he get bewildered?
How would he get bewildered? It's a good question. Prabhupada gives different answers to that question. You look at Arjuna, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, and you read the purports of the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes Prabhupada would say that Arjuna was just pretending to be distraught, etc. And sometimes Prabhupada would just be like, he's just, a weak, it's just kind of pathetic, and he's totally bewildered, etc. And like he would say both, or Parikshit Maharaj, he's asking these questions for our benefit, and so you get both sometimes, but in terms of, you mentioned bhava and prema, these things are described by Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There are three broad categories in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in terms of bhakti: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti, and they're described at different levels. And bhava bhakti is described as it's like the horizon, the first ray of light of the rising sun of prema. It said that in bhava there is still some element. Doesn't say false ego, but it says there are still some residue of offenses in the heart. And so the classic example is Bharat Maharaj, who became attached to the deer. He was on the level of bhava, but he wasn't on the level of prema. And prema itself is described, it's not in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, not many levels, but there are many different levels of prema even, that ultimately in the highest pinnacle in Srimati Radharani. And so we use this word pure devotee often very loosely. What does pure devotee mean? Someone in bhava, someone in prema, what stage of prema? And so Brahma was, of course, a very elevated devotee. But his bhakti was clearly not on the level of Mother Yashoda, Mother Nanda Maharaj. And so the definition of bhakti given by Rupa Goswami is Anyabhilasha Shunyam Jnana Karma Jnanapratam Anukulyena Krishna Shilaram Bhaktir Uttama. So that definition we can take Anyabhilasha Shunyam Jnana Karma Jnanapratam. It's not covered by jnana or karma, and it's completely devoid of any ulterior motive. So Brahma, and it's Anukulyena Krishna Shilanam Bhaktir Uttama. It wasn't for pure desire just to please Krishna. There was some ulterior motive there and some covering of his bhakti. And so Krishna was just chipping away at it.
But after this, when he comes to his realization and offers his prayers, is he then on the level of anger?
Sometimes, I'm just speaking myself here, I'm not quoting Shastra, but I think oftentimes what happens is, Rupa Goswami, he mentions in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that he doesn't spend a lot of time talking about prema because it's so if we're looking at sadhana bhakti, trying to figure out how do I control my senses and how do I offer things to Krishna without wanting them for myself? It's like, what's the use of me going in? So I'm just going to mention prema briefly. So sometimes because we're encased in a mature mind, we're trying to think of what level am I on? Like a karate belt, he's a blue belt, he's a black belt, he's a black belt prema, is he on that level? And I don't think that states of consciousness work that way as much. What I do know is that from example is that we always have to be careful, and that we should never think that I've attained this stage and therefore I don't have to worry about anything else. We always have to be cautious to how we behave, how we approach our devotional lives. And so it's not that he's on that stage, it'll never happen again. It's that he forget. And we keep forgetting until we get to the place where we don't forget anymore. So whether Brahma was just pretending or whether he was actually bewildered, what it means for us is that we need to take our spiritual lives very seriously. So, okay, they're going to open up the curtains here. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.
All right. Thank you very much, dear devotees, for participating in this yagya of the morning class. William Prabhu, Bhima Prabhu. Bhima Prabhu, you look so cozy. Is that beard keeping you warm? Is that what it's for? Right. Good, good. Reach, Bhakti, good seeing you. Bruce Prabhu, probably driving. iPhone, that's Arjuna Prabhu, Yogeshwari, Suzanne, Dana, Krishna's Radharani, Susan. Susan, thank you for blessing Andrea, Draupadi. Yeah, we're so happy to have her back. Danikeli Prabhu, Shamila, Pink Yogi of Harlem, Amrita Kishori Didi, Isabel Spirit Soul, Hare Krishna. Very happy to be with you all. Have a wonderful day. Come back tomorrow. Hare Krishna.